Today I'm going to talk about horse racing. Actually, no, I'm not. I don't know anything about horse racing. I've never even been to a horse race, actually. That occurred to me the other day. Anyway, this video is already rambling. When you don't like a whiskey, whose fault is that? And you're about to discover that that was just a dad joke, but it's my video, so tough luck. Something that I see constantly in internet whiskey communities, and even in hanging out with people I consider friends who are whiskey nerds, is trying a whiskey and then some version of, this whiskey's bull, this whiskey's crap, oh, this whiskey tastes like cat, you know, just like all of these truly terrible, terrible exclamations about a whiskey. When what they really mean is they don't like it. And there's a difference between I don't like this and this is objectively bullshit product. There's a lot of curse words to bleep out in this thing. And I think the problem that I have with that is the vast majority of people taking all the effort to get off the sidelines, make a whiskey product, or source and relabel and create a brand and a company, put effort into something that matters in the world, try to tell a story, hire employees, try to make an impact in the world, share with the world some product they've created. That takes an astronomical amount of effort and goes against all the odds. And the vast majority of people just sit around on their butts going, wouldn't it be cool if we had a whiskey distillery? And they do nothing. So for you to get off of your bench on the sidelines and just tell somebody that their life's work tastes like cat and piece of shit, like, how dare you? Who the hell are you? And what I often find is that it's not faulty. It's just that you don't like it. They made some choices and you didn't like it, but I don't like it is not even in the same ballpark at the beginning as this is a faulty product. Now, if you find a faulty product, yeah, you're probably not going to like it. But do not ever mistake those two things as the same, because they're not the same. We are fallible human beings. And just because you don't like something doesn't mean anything to me. Unless I know you and I know what you like and I know what you prefer. But guess what it also doesn't tell me? Anything about the people who made it or their interior motivations or what drives them or what they care about. If I had a nickel for every time someone goes on the internet and was like, there's just a money grab. And I just want to say, like, you have no idea what's going on in those meeting rooms where people are making decisions about bottle prices. You have no idea. So I don't really care what you think about whether something's too expensive or not. You can say that's too expensive for me to buy it and I'm not going to spend my money. That's fine. But to make moral judgment calls on people because of the decisions that they've made, no, that's bullshit. Now, there is such a thing as faulty products. We're going to talk about that in a second. First, I'm getting to drink one that I found on the shelf that I'd heard about called Calumet, and everyone else knows all about this. I'm more of a Scotch drinker, so bourbon is always new to me. This is a farm that's like really huge pedigree in horse racing and produced like the most amount of winners that had ever been done. And then they went bankrupt and they got bought out. And then in the last decades, they've been returned to their former glory. And now they have created a line of whiskey called Calumet Farms Bourbon, and they're sourcing it. This one is 74 corn, 18 rye, 8% malted barley, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the same mash bill as a lot of stuff coming out of Barton, but I don't know who makes this. But it is 15-year-old and 18-year-old bourbon blended together. And I find it interesting that they're allowed to put both of those age statements on there. That's kind of surprising. But I'm glad they did. So we're going to try it now. This is the most classic Kentucky bourbon nose that you could possibly get your hands on. Cherry, corn dust, wood and oak tannins, a little bit of a candied leather, for lack of a better term. It's really dark and kind of, there's almost a bitterness on the nose that reminds me of a bitter dark chocolate. Okay. Huh. What's the proof on this? 43, 86 proof. Okay. It's really watery. Something about this, man, I lack words for this thing right now. It's really soft, and watery is the wrong word. Okay. It's a light touch. It almost feels like I have already added water and it's loosened some of the bonds. It's all highs, high mids, and light palate. I was really thinking that 15-year-old whiskey in this would add a lot of big barrel forward, but it's not. It's really kind of top heavy and sparkly and a little spicy almost. I like it. I wish it had a little more low end and low mids. I'll add a little bit of water and then we'll see. Okay. When something is really faulty, that's an actual science thing. Fermentations have gone wrong or weren't cleaned, or the stills weren't run the correct way. And even in those, you will find that it's not cut and dried. For example, if you have a wrong fermentation, you can explode isoamyl acetate, which is the note that is responsible for what you would perceive as banana. And in a wrong distillation or fermentation, that note can just explode and then never really gets. There's another one, which is buttered popcorn, which comes from, you can fix it over time if you let things rest, but it's a too short fermentation. Anyway, these things show up, buttered popcorn, banana, when fermentations haven't been handled correctly and they just dominate the flavor profile, and they will make it all the way through the still, and you'll pick up an aged spirit and go, whoo, bananas, or, oh man, that's really strong buttered popcorn. That's something that I would consider to be a fault, right? And so I wouldn't say like, this is the thing I've ever smelled in my entire life. I would say, ooh, that's an out of control fermentation, or a fermentation cut off too soon. And those notes made it all the way through, and I don't like that. I would consider that to be a fault in the whiskey. However, as we know, a weed in the wrong place, or a flower in the wrong place, that's a weed, right? And so my definition of a fault might be something that someone else was actually aiming for. I've encountered whiskeys where I just thought, oh God, there's no way anyone aimed for this. This tastes terrible. And then there's other whiskeys where I went, oh wow, that's really strong on that note. I don't know that you meant to do that, and it's not great. Or I should say, I don't like it. But I would put overly hoppy beer in a faulty category. And there are people who would just shoot me for that kind of opinion, who love hoppy beer, right? There are people who would consider smoky whiskey faulty, or really fainty, low, overly sherried whiskey is faulty because it's too much heavy sherry impact. And so I think we need to develop a rule of just being more careful with our language and less extreme at just trashing something that we don't like. And remembering that there are human beings behind bottles, and it is not up to you to determine their motivations. With a little water, hasn't changed the nose hardly at all. Oh, and it really made the palate bland and sweet. So it's best at what it's bottled at. As always, and I've said this a lot in the last few videos, but I mean it, be kind. I'm really glad you're here. Cheers to you.